The question is, as on the order paper, Esther McVey.
Well, I welcome this debate today to answer honestly the points raised in the motion, to put clarity around this, but to be honest, Madam Deputy Speaker, a far more realistic debate would have been brought by these benches, would have been brought by the people of the United Kingdom to know how the opposition benches derailed the UK, destroyed the finances and made the UK such a vulnerable place. I'll continue a little bit further because the truth must be heard. For whilst Labour was in office, Labour gradually wore away at the financial strength of this country, eroded its savings culture, and crashed the economy. No, gas bills doubled, council tax doubled, fuel duty went up 12 times. What Labour presided over, the only thing that it grew was in debt and overspending. It left the UK with...
Order! This is not a football match. Don't shout at the Minister. She will give way when she's ready to give way. Minister.
I think it's only fair I set the scene before I take interventions. So Labour left the UK with the highest structural deficit of any major advanced country, wiped £112 billion off the economy, giving debt of about £3,000 to every household, and personal debt reached a staggering £1.5 trillion. So this whirl of living beyond our means, this increase in prices, this increase in debt, this increase of unaffordability had to come to a stop, and it did also suddenly. Because sadly, very sadly, all of us now are paying the price of what happened. That is, government is paying the price, charities are paying the price, businesses are paying the price, and individuals are paying the price as we try to balance not only our household budgets but also those of the country.
There is no point in having a debate if nobody listens to the person who is speaking. Be quiet. Minister.
As I've said, I will take interventions once I have set the, what has happened. So let's be honest here. The Trussell Trust saw what was happening back in 2000. It looked at the problem that was evolving from personal debt, from overspending, from living beyond our means, and it set up the first Trussell Trust in 2000, but it set up the actual network in 2004. The number of food banks grew tenfold until 2010. And what is most startling was that when they started, the Labour benches didn't want to know how this had happened. When they grew tenfold, they didn't want to know why this had developed. No. And when a Labour councillor who had set up the Trussell Trust came for support to say, allow me to signpost from the Job Centre Pluses, Labour said no.
Yes.
Labour said no. Labour wanted it to be their little secret, because beyond the veneer of what might have seemed like a sound economy, it was crumbling, but they knew what was going to happen. And sadly and shameful on the opposition benches, no investigation, no wanting to know what went on. It took the member of Harlow to speak with the Secretary of State to actually have this signposted. Now I have set the scene.
I thank the Minister for giving way. My constituency office took a phone call from an ex-serviceman yesterday, now thankfully in receipt of a war pension, DLA and ESA, but whilst waiting 4 weeks for Atos to deal with his appeal, had to use a food bank. Does the Minister not agree that is an absolute disgrace?
We have hardship payments, we have support payments, but what I will say too, we have put in a new element of reconsideration to make this quicker, and at the same time, actually, the actual transaction of getting benefits has actually increased in speed by 6 percentage points. But let's not get away from what happened and how this started underneath the opposition and what happened today. So this is what happened underneath the opposition benches. And so what I'd like to say, it is important what each and every one of us does. Of course, I hear nothing from the opposition benches today when we hear, through our Welfare to Work programme, 30 million people are in jobs today. 30 million people are in jobs today, whereas we know under Labour that actually the households with nobody working actually doubled. We know in the last term of Labour's office...
Order! There are too many people standing up. The Minister is not taking an intervention at this point. Allow her to make her speech. Minister!
The claimant count in the final period of Labour in office went up by 82%.
Very grateful to the Minister for giving way. And just in relation to the issue of referring, does she remember that the Trussell Trust thanked this government for allowing job centres to refer, which was a compassionate thing to do, refused by the benches opposite?
My honourable friend makes a very good point, and I will also give way to the honourable member who negotiated this on our side.
I'm hugely grateful to the Honourable Lady and for the work of the Secretary of State for actually changing the staff's disgraceful ruling from the last government. Will my honourable friend praise the Harlow Food Bank that was set up in 2009 after the years of plenty? And does she not agree that it is very, very sad that food banks are being turned into a party political football by the members of opposition, and they are trying to destroy the excellent work that they do?
I will indeed, because it is actually, if there was one thing that came out of the disastrous years that turned our country more vulnerable because of the disastrous finance from the opposition, was the fact that not only are the government doing more to get people into work, I'll say again, though I heard no positive sounds from the opposite benches, 30 million people in work. It's not only the businesses have helped and support people and taking more people on, but actually the community has come together to support one another, which must be a positive mood. No, I will make a little bit more progress. So let's go back to the report. So this was a report that obviously Labour didn't want to do, keep it as its little secret, didn't want to look into why Trussell Trust is set up. They didn't want to know why it had grown exponentially, but we did. So we've looked into this, but it's quite right that we give an accurate report. And from the party that brought us the dodgy dossier that never wanted verification of the facts, why let the facts get in the way of a fiction tale? So I think it is only correct. I think it's only correct that we get our facts right and deliver it at the right time. And remember, we're doing it. And as we're saying, it is positive that people are reaching out to support other people, from church groups to community groups to local supermarkets, some other groups. That's right. But what I'd also like to do is put this in context of also what's happening right round the...
We can't hear the Minister. Minister.
So, in the UK, it is right that, more people are visiting, which you'd expect going to food banks. Because as the time is tough, as time is tough, as we're all having to pay back this 1.5 trillion debt personally, which spiralled under Labour, as we're all trying to live within our means, change the gear, make sure we're paying back all our debt which happened under them. But what is happening right round the world, I think it's important to look at that. So in the UK, with a population of 63 million, there are 60,000 people going to the Trussell Trust on their figures. 60,000 people. However, in Germany, where the population is 82 million, there is now 1.5 million users going to this. And in Canada, where the population is 35 million, there are 830,000 monthly users at the Trussell Trust. So, Mr. Speaker, if we put everything in context, if we look, Madam Deputy Speaker, if we put everything in context, what had happened, so whether it was the overspending, not being able to balance the books from 2002, if it were the financial crash in 2007, look now at how much we have done to balance the economy, rebalance the economy, and get it on a stable footing.
Order! The House should just pause for a moment, calm down, listen to them. Everyone will have a turn to make their point in due course. Order! Minister.
It's startling, isn't it, that the Shadow Minister on the opposite side took 3 interventions and we all listened. It would be actually quite appropriate if we listened to the facts, because I think that's where we go wrong, that we don't listen to what is going on. And if we could just do that. So if we see as a government now, as a coalition government, and remember, brought in to solve the mess that the opposition benches had put us in, and nothing more clearly says what we have done to support people, because the best way out of poverty is by getting people into work. That is the best way of helping people out of poverty. You are 3 times more likely to be in poverty as a child if you're in a workless household, and that is the party that gave us workless households. We have a record-breaking, I'm going to say it again because it still hasn't quite been acknowledged by the opposition benches, 30 million people in jobs today, which means we have a further 1.25 million people in jobs since the general election. The opposition told us...
If honourable members don't keep quiet and listen to the Minister will have to repeat her speech over and over again. Order! And if the House keeps interrupting me, I will call order again and again, and very few people will have a chance to make the speeches they have prepared. Now, silence. Minister.
So there we have 1.25 million more people in jobs now than at the election. We know the best way out of poverty is by being in jobs, which we did. The opposition benches said there'd be 1 million more people out of work. You were wrong. The opposition was wrong. They also said double dip, treble dip recession. They were wrong. And may I say, Madam Deputy Speaker, on this issue, they are wrong too. And that is why we have to compare Labour's legacy of a debt-fuelled boom. That's why we've got to compare the two. What are we doing now? How have we supported people? Under Labour, 5 million out-of-work benefits. Number of households nobody's working doubled. 2 million children living in workless households. That is what we don't want. Shame, they say, from the opposite benches. And what is the help for families that we are doing? We want to make sure that work always pays. That is why we have brought in universal credit, to make sure that 3 million people are better off. This is what our side of the House are doing. Let's also be honest, one thing the opposition doesn't necessarily understand as well is disposable income is different to income. So what have we done to support people with disposable income? As I said, the opposition benches gave way 3 times. We will finish what we're saying. And should there be time, because I appreciate backbenchers have only got 4 minutes, I will give way. So what have we done here? We have taken 2.7 million people out of tax. We have cut tax for 25 million people, giving them on average £700 extra a year. We have stopped the opposition benches, fuel petrol prices increasing, saying families £300, or somebody who's in a business with a van £1,000. All of this is key to what we've done. Winter fuel allowance state, cold weather payment state. This is what we have done to support people, and tax breaks for young people who are now going to be in a job. And when we talk about what happened under what government, what happened when, how Trussell Trust started, when we also talk about removal of the spare room subsidy, again...
Order! Members must not shout at the Minister. It is clear that she doesn't intend to give way, and she's not going to give way more if you shout at her. Please be quiet, allow the Minister to finish her speech, and then everyone will have a chance to make their contribution. Minister.
So when we talk about the spare room subsidy, again, Trussell Trust started under Labour. They hid that away. And so did removal of the spare room subsidy start under Labour in 2008 when they did it in the private sector. So again, rewriting history doesn't really work. The British public want to know the truth. The Labour benches ruined the economy, and we are getting it right on tracks.
I'm very grateful to the Minister. On the one hand, she has spent a long time telling us that there are now so many more people, she says, in work, although the rate of employment has still not returned to pre-recession levels. But if she hasn't got her words out.
The Honourable Lady must be brief, but she must be heard. Sheila Gilmore.
If everything is going so well, why, since 2010, has there been such a substantial increase in the number of people using food banks? The only explanation can be the changes in welfare policies from this government.
I think that maybe tomorrow when Hansard comes out we can read the full explanation, because you probably don't want me to go through it again. Actually, it was because of the crash, the overspend, the personal debt, the public debt that actually the opposition benches left us with. And when we talk about another thing that was raised in this debate was 0-hour contracts. And this, was something that happened under Labour. In fact, the numbers in 2013 were the same as the numbers in 2000. In fact, 0-hour contracts went up 75% from 2005 and 2009. Something that the opposition benches did absolutely zero about. And can we also say that it is the Leader of the Opposition and his Doncaster Council that presides over the biggest number within his council of 0-hour contract. So again, a lot of fluster, a lot of bluster. The oppositions did nothing in government. They're doing nothing in control of the Labour councils, and yet we are now picking up the pieces. I will indeed give way.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm grateful to my honourable friend, and she's spoken eloquently of the price Ascot Road, where my food bank is situated, you could walk down that road in 2009 and see in window after window repossession notices as house after house was taken away by banks which foreclosed on them. The grisly legacy of that lot wasn't just a loss of jobs, it was a loss of homes as well.
You see, the opposition like to forget all about this. The industry I know most about is probably the construction industry. And actually that was brought to its knees in about 2007 underneath the guidance of the opposite benches. Many industries had a tough time pre-2010. That's when it all happened. And equally, the opposition is so bad with numbers, they don't understand, obviously, it needs to be a change of gear. When you rebalance economies, when you change things, when you do, to get things back on track, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a long period of time. But just something to ponder on a second, it was the opposite benches, the Shadow Secretary of State, who said, I want to be, or we will be, tougher on benefits. We will be tougher on benefits. We will do more than we're doing. So I just wonder how the opposition benches feel about that, and whether they believe then the use of the Trussell Trust would be higher or lower if that were to happen. So I will come to a close now. There is chanting from the opposition benches. You see, I find how the opposition benches left the country in a very vulnerable position. I find that a really sad moment. No?
Order. Allow the Minister to conclude her speech. Now, Minister.
Because I find that, for the people of the UK, deeply saddening. For me, that is not something to be chanting and cheering about. That is something for the opposition to really reflect from another about 20 years on what they have done to the UK PLC. Reflect while we get it right. So for those reasons, and many, many more, I reject the Opposition Day debate, mainly for its inaccuracy and everything that was put down there, and instead welcome the promising signs that we are delivering, both in jobs and in growth, the fastest in the G7 in this quarter, more people in work, more businesses going, more exports, more work for everybody. And I just want to say that is why we object to the motion and welcome what we are doing at this side of the bench.